Hello and welcome to my video lecture on using some of the built-in functions in PHP. So the first one we're going to take a look at is number underscore format. Number underscore format is a function used to determine the number of decimal places for a number variable that gets passed in, either a literal or a variable. In these examples that we have here, we're passing in literals so that you can see what would actually happen. So here we're using the number format function to format 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Since we don't have a number of decimal places, the number of decimal places will be 0. And what it does is it formats it to look like a number. So if it has over 10,000, it'll use the comma. Now the formatting reaches out and uses your operating system's number formatting styles. So my operating system is using an American version, so we have commas. Some of the European versions would put a dot there instead of a comma. The next time we use the number format in the second example, we're once again using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, only here we're saying that there are 2 decimal places. So once again, it's going to put in the comma, but now it's going to add in 2 decimal places. The number format will also do the rounding for you. So if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.674 and we want to make it only 2 decimal places, this 4 will be rounded down, and we will get 12,345.67. And in the last example here, the 5 would be rounded up, so that we will get 12,345.68. We have another built-in function that will get us today's date. Once again, reaching out to the operating system on the server, right? So this is a server-side language, so it's all what's going on the server. So that goes for our number formatting as well. In this case, so far all of the development has been on the local host. So the local host right now is the server. So when I say this is the formatting that's on my computer, it's currently right now on my server. But when we have an internet server someplace else, we have to keep that in mind. So a function with getting the current date, we would have to supply the format. So the format uses these commonly used characters for the date formatting. So if we use a capital Y, we are going to get the 4-digit year associated with the operating system. If we use a lowercase y, that will give us a 2-digit year. If we use a lowercase m, it'll give us a numeric expression representation of the month with leading zeros. So January would be 01. And if we use a lowercase d, the numeric representation of the day of the month with leading zeros. So statements that format a date, if today was March 12th, 2014, using a capital Y dash lowercase m dash lowercase d would result in 2014-03-12. If we use the lowercase m with a slash, a lowercase d and a slash, and a lowercase y, we would get 03/12/14. Substituting in dots and a capital Y would result in 03.12.2014. And if we just passed in a capital Y, that would result in just the 4-digit year. We also have 3 functions for checking variable values. We can use the isSet and pass in a variable. We can use the empty to check a variable, and we can use the isNumeric to check a variable. There are many more. But these are the ones that are very commonly used. So for instance, if we passed in a variable called name to the isSet function, it would return true if name has been set. So if it has some value, that means it's not null. So if it has any value other than a null, isSet returns true. Empty. The function empty, when passed in a variable, will return true if name is empty. So that means it is null. And you can play with that on your own and mess around with that. And then the isNumeric function, when passed in a variable, will return true if the variable is in fact a number. So either it's an integer or a double, it will return or can be converted to a number. So if it's a string that's 19.99, then it will actually return true. There were two other functions that we talked about, or that I want to talk about. One is the HTML special chars function, and the other is the HTML entities function. Both of these two functions are used quite often to prevent XSS attacks, the cross-site type of attacks. The HTML special chars converts certain HTML special characters to their corresponding HTML entities and returns the resulting string. So, for example, it would take the ampersand character and would convert it to the ampersand entity, which would be the ampersand symbol followed by AMP. HTML entities converts all HTML characters that have corresponding HTML entities and returns the resulting string. So in many cases, both of these work exactly the same way. So what I've done is I've added these to a display PHP file that I already have that just does a first name and a last name. So what would happen? When we talk about cross-site scripting, we're talking about a malicious user that has come to our website, to our data entry pages, and is going to try to enter in some kind of HTML. Here, I'm just putting in some basic HTML anchor tagging that would create a link to another page. This could be obviously much more malicious when we're talking about cross-site scripting, but I don't want to go crazy with that. At this point, you should at least know what an anchor tag looks like and does. This is going to create a link to the Google website. So when I submit this, what you'll see is two of these that aren't using either of the HTML special chars or the HTML entities function show up as a link, a clickable link, because that's exactly what the user passed in, so the browser translates it to that. What you see in these two examples is when we pass the value that the user entered into the special HTML special chars function, what we get is the harmless text returned. And the same thing happens when we pass that value into the HTML entities function. And if we right-click and we view page source, what we see is that it actually took that anchor tag that we passed in and converted the less than to the ampersand LT entity with a semicolon. Then the A, which was part of the anchor tag. So this is where the anchor tag started. Then the A, the space, the href, the equal sign, and then the double quotes gets converted into the HTML entity. Then http://www.google, and then the HTML entity of the quotation marks, then the HTML entity of the greater than sign, the word Google, and the HTML entity associated with the less than, the slash, which a lot of times will be used as an escape character, and again, we'll get into that in a later lesson, and the A and the ampersand greater than sign. So that's how you can see what was actually converted by the Apache web server and sent back to our browser window, and then this is what gets displayed in our HTML. So that concludes my video lecture on the use of some of PHP's built-in functions.